What do you actually need with a case that almost has everything that is regarding power and cooling, and you're basically done? You only need the main components. Well, those are also the main components, but we're talking here about motherboard, graphic card, RAMs, CPU, and yeah, that's SSD, of course. So right here we have a quite interesting case, a quite interesting synergy of components already pre-built. This is a Cooler Master TD500 MAX, and I think you already seen loads of stuff on the web regarding this case, but I really wanted to check it out. First of all, because it comes with a pre-installed 360 AIO ATMOS, but it's not a regular ATMOS. It has a bit thicker radiator. And then we go with the power supply. It comes with 850 gold modular. Is it modular actually? Because you can't adjust the cables. They are already pre-adjusted, let's put it this way. But we'll get to the bottom of everything definitely. But all in all, a case, an AIO 360, not 120 with those smaller cases like Encore 100 Max or I don't know, anything similar to that, and an 850 power supply, which can definitely run an RTX 4080. So we're at that point where you get everything pre-assembled. The only thing that you need to do is place your motherboard, CPU, attach the AIO on the CPU, and place the GPU, you're done. Of course, RAMs and SSD, of course, yeah, that's also important. But regarding everything, it's quite straightforward. I mean, I built this PC in quite short period of time. I just wanted to check the details to give you guys some information about it. But regarding building, half an hour tops, and I think an experienced user would build inside this one in about, let's say, an hour, hour and a half. That's it. So first of all, the most important, one of the important features that this case has is the compartment right here. So you remove this plastic cover, which usually we have this opening here to check out the power supply. Some of you guys like it, some of you don't. It's all about personal preferences, as I always say. But here we have a feature that is quite cool, and of course it's isolated, so you don't have to worry that the screw will touch the power supply or short circuit anything. It's really not that bad. So what we got here is basically a storage for your screws, so you don't get any accessory box with it. This is it. This is really straightforward. I mean, you do get some accessories with the case, but it doesn't have to do anything with the screws that attach the motherboard, that you can attach the SSD and all the other stuff, right? So this is really cool, and it's really straightforward when we're talking about placing this plastic bit back. Here we go. That's it. Quite straightforward. Now, the one thing that I would like to mention is the AIO. So the AIO is placed on front, and we'll get some differences in thermals without a doubt, and I'll mention that. But when we're talking about the AIO on front, what we have is tubes running from the bottom, which is of course brilliant. And in this scenario, you don't have air trapped in the pump. My initial concern was if the tubes are long enough, and of course nobody will release a case that has some flaws or minor flaws which are totally irrelevant, but you know, some concerns were there. So what happens here is that you have quite long tubes that don't even touch a fairly long GPU, I would say. So this goes right here, and you can adjust the tubes without any problems, without touching the GPU. And we're talking about the RTX 4080 Gaming X3, which is a fairly long GPU. I think it's above 323 millimeters, and it doesn't touch. And you still have loads of space here before touching the radiator, which is thicker than the regular MasterLiquid 360 ATMOS. So this is quite outstanding. When we're talking about the power supply, which is also pre-installed and cables are pre-routed, literally every single cable is pre-routed, you get let's say a scenario where you do have to connect a cable, but nothing drastical. So you do have a possibility to connect two 8-pin EPS on top. You have a possibility to connect 24-pin. I mean, you have to connect at least one EPS, and you do have to connect the 24-pin. But then you have one 8-pin PCI Express cable that runs here at the bottom. This might be for some extra power for, I don't know, it's not enough for standard GPU, even for 3000 series or even for AMD Radeon cards. So I think they should have placed at least one more 8-pin PCI Express connector right there, unless you're going with a daisy chain possibility, even though there was a myth that you shouldn't be using one cable splitted into two when we're talking about 8-pin PCI Express for the 3000 series. Regardless of that, let's continue. You also have a 12V PWR which is bent by 90 degrees. So depending on the graphic card, depending on the connection here, you'll either have to go from the top or from the bottom. It's all up to the PCB and the design and everything else. But it's right here already connected, 450 watts. You just have to place it here and that's all. So when we're talking about the PCI Express 24-pin and 8-pin EPS cables, you get them separately because you have a connection on the motherboard tray, let's put it this way, and you have to just connect a shorter cable, and I would appreciate if it was a bit shorter because it won't be sticking out as such. But in those terms, if they were creating, let's say, some sort of extension connectors on the side and on the top, why not make straight cables and not flip around the wires so they can be nicely organized, let's put it this way, right? But yeah, regardless of that, this is a solution where back connect is not meaningless because you're seeing cables. That back connect has a different meaning where you actually don't have any cables up on front except for the GPU, depending on the solution for that. And this is something that where you don't have to reroute the cables because they're pre-routed. Now, talking about pre-routing cables, you have 3 fans on front and one at the rear, 120, and the thing is, the one at the back is 3-pin DC, and when since it's already pre-connected to the controller, it really spins up high and it really creates unnecessary decibel range, decibel noise, and that needs to be sorted. So what I did is, and this is an MSI board, I don't know about the other boards and can it be done, but what I did is I reconnected the 3-pin DC fan right here, the rear one, to the motherboard, any header whatsoever. When we're talking about 4-pin PWM, it really doesn't matter. You connect it, you go to BIOS, and what you do is you choose DC and smart fan control, and then you can actually regulate the fan speed on this one. So I lowered it down from, I think it's 1800 to 700-800 when we're talking about the noise level, and adjusted the curve, which can be adjusted quite easily. So that's good, but the original settings is annoying since it is really loud. Now, the backside also has loads of space, and you have a possibility for two 3.5-inch caddies right here. Even though the original configuration, when they rerouted the cables, they placed the SATA cables in those caddies. So I would suggest removing those and adjusting everything properly so you're good to go. Now, one thing that you do actually need to connect is the pump block top. So you do need to connect the PWM header for the RPMs of the pump, and you do need to connect the addressable RGB to your addressable RGB header on your motherboard, or daisy chain it to the controller at the back, because since we have 3 fans on front that are addressable RGB and this one, it is possible to daisy chain them since there is additional 2 headers sticking out from the fans. So yeah, there's a possibility to do that, and I added 2 Mobius fans from the original ATMOS because it looks really empty when you have an AIO on front and you don't have anything on top. And it can fit 3 120 without a problem, but let's check out the specs before I start talking something ludicrous. So as I stated, the radiator is thicker than your regular ATMOS, and it's 38 millimeters. So this is really good because it gives you more performance. We have Mobius 120p addressable RGB fans in the premium 360 ATMOS AIO cooler, which means 3.6 millimeters HO and 75.6 CFM. It supports power supplies up to 200 millimeters, which it gives you an option to choose and to switch between the power supplies if you decide to upgrade into something that is more power hungry. Now the volume is 48 liters. It supports all motherboards except for the eATX, because of the 24 pin and 8 pin on the side, so it will definitely go across those, and you have everything blocked here, so there's no openings actually, except for the top for the additional fans if you decide to place them at the top. We have 7 expansion slots, 2 3.5-inch hard drive bays, 3 2.5-inch SSD bays, and when we're talking about AIO panel, we have 2 USB 3.2 generation 1, we have 1 USB 3.2 generation 2 x 2 type C, and then we have 1 audio combo audio in and out 3.5mm jack. We also have a addressable RGB hub with the button on top, and you have a Cooler Master logo power button, which is really cool. The power supply is GX2 Gold 850 watts ATX3.0. You can request an additional 6+2 PCI Express pin cable from their customer service, which is really strange. Why didn't they just add that? It's not like it costs, I don't know, $50 to add that, but okay. Fan support on the front 3120 or 2140, top 3120 or 2140, and rear is logical 1120. Radiator support on the front is 360 or 240, top is 360 or 240, and rear is 120, while the CPU cooler clearance, even though you have an AIO, but regardless, 165 millimeters. The maximum GPU length is 380 millimeters with the pre-installed AIO in the front, which is outstanding. And then we have cable routing space behind the motherboard tray at 19 millimeters. Dust filters, we have a magnetic dust filter at the top, and we have a sliding dust filter at the back, which is really easy to remove. And that's basically it when we're talking about features, specs, and all the other stuff. Now for the benchmarks, you know I was praising the ATMOS, the original one, with performance and everything else, and honestly this one didn't surprise me whatsoever. So in AIDA 64 Extreme Edition, but I'll get to the point with something else. So 85 degrees on the CPU with 4800 MHz clock speed. The GPU went up to 70 degrees, which means this GPU specifically. In other cases goes up to 66, 67, in this case went to 70, and I usually, when I test everything, I place the radiator on top. So this scenario created 3 degrees more on the GPU. Is it because of this? Is it something else? I don't know. This is what happened, and these are the results. Regarding the benchmarks, when we're talking about Cinebench, it starts at 79 degrees and eventually touches 3 times 80 degrees, and it has a constant on frequency with 5025, 5000, and it just circulates around there. The scores are also outstanding, 26,400, it starts there, and it goes a bit up, 26,425, 305, 333, and it kind of goes around of average of 26,320 to 50, something like that, which is definitely amazing. And I have to say, a pre-built, let's say almost a pre-built case, because you do have to choose your main components, but you get the power supply, you get an AIO, which is an outstanding AIO, and our pump is running at like 10,000 RPMs, which is also mind-blowing. And everything all together, I think this chassis looks incredible. I don't have to mention the cool tempered glass. I removed it just for the reflection, but incredible tempered glass design with those cutouts on it to combine it with the front panel. It just looks outstanding. Altogether an outstanding case, power supply, and AIO combination, without a doubt. I mean, there's nothing left to say. You have a proper position of the radiator in terms of orientation for the pump and for the radiator. You have a power supply with pre-connected cables. You just have to connect the shorter ones, which is quite easy, and there's no philosophy behind it. There's nothing to say more than this. You do have to use the tube clips if you desire to do so, just for some sort of reorganization and having a clean look, and that's all there is to it. Guys, there's nothing left to say except this case in those terms with the AIO and everything, definitely PC Crazy approved badge, because it's really an easy job building inside with this configuration. Let's put it this way, with this configuration. Big thumbs up. The link for the Cooler Master TD500 MAX is in the description below, so you could check out the price and maybe some additional information if you have some other questions. But regarding everything, I think you'll be quite satisfied, and that's it for today. Don't forget to subscribe, hit the like button, click the notification bell if this video helped you in any kind of way, and I would really appreciate it. And I'll see you next time. Bye bye.